Hey everyone, welcome in to this week's episode of Studs and Duds, the most comprehensive NFL player review series on the internet. Today we're going to be talking about the rising and falling players from NFL weeks 11 and 12. I want to let you guys know I'm going to try and get through this one a little bit quicker, so I appreciate your understanding. This has just been a crazy week, man. I've actually got the wedding coming up in 2 weeks, so we got planning going on for that. We have an offer in on a house, so like lots of exciting life stuff going on top of trying to keep up with all the NFL content. One-man show here on the YouTube channel, so it's been a busy week. This one took a lot out of me, so I'm going to try and get through this one a little bit quicker. And with that said, I also want to let you guys know this is going to be the last Studs and Duds until the end of the regular season. I'm going to be really out of town for the better part of December. We got the wedding, the honeymoon. Again, busy times with my personal life going on here, so I appreciate your understanding on that one. Gonna have some scheduled content, some different stuff, mock draft, Madden, franchise wish list. We've got some fun stuff coming here, but content is definitely gonna shift a little bit as we approach the playoffs. So just a heads up on all that stuff, and we're gonna go ahead and get started here. I want to ask you guys, please hit that like button down below. It really helps me out. If we could get this video to 1,000 likes, it would really help grow the channel, share this video, all that stuff. So again, 1,000 likes would be an amazing Christmas gift from you guys and a wedding gift from you guys. So please hit that like button down below. And a special thanks to my Patreon supporters as well over on patreon.com/ThatFranchiseGuy. You guys really make this show go, and you make the Madden roster that these ratings are attached to really go as well. This would not exist without you guys on Patreon, so thank you so much. And let's go ahead and get started with the star of the week here. It's going to be Jonathan Taylor, the running back for the Indianapolis Colts, really the star of the last 2 weeks, taking the league by storm with his power, his production, the improvements he's made in the receiving game, with his pass protection, you name it. He's best back in football right now. He's a rare running back in the MVP conversation, so +3 for Jonathan Taylor this week. And then the dud of the week, Jalen Reagor, quite literally dropping the ball for the Philadelphia Eagles, straight up cost them this game against the Giants in week 12. The former first-round pick here for the Eagles, a player they took ahead of Justin Jefferson. Oof. You'd like to see some element of consistency in production, and you're just not getting it from Jalen Reagor. He hasn't developed as a route runner. His hands have not developed, and again, just not producing for the Eagles and letting the team down. So Jalen Reagor dropping down 2 this week, the dud of the week. And now into the team-by-team breakdowns here. So we're going alphabetically. We got timestamps in the description below, starting with the Chicago Bears. David Montgomery +1 continues to look super explosive. He's battled injuries. He's had an impressive season, all things considered, on a pretty poor Bears offense. James Daniels helping clear running lanes for David Montgomery, among other running backs here for the Bears throughout the season. He's having his best year as he approaches contract talks. Cole Kmet as well is coming along, improving his blocking most notably, but becoming more involved in the receiving game as well. Darnell Mooney getting a +1. He's heating up. Really like Darnell Mooney, a 5th-round pick coming out. And he's just that separator type, and he's got really good hands, run after catch ability, obviously an explosive weapon. So he's kind of emerged as the Bears' best receiver, and he's established a lot of consistency there. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Robert Quinn having his best season as a Chicago Bear at least. But one of his better seasons on his career, at least in a long, long time. He's been a consistent impact, a sack getter, a pressure getter, showing more juice off the edge than I thought he had left in him at his age. So Robert Quinn getting some love here. And then Travis Gibson, who has had to fill in due to the Khalil Mack injury. He has looked really good. He has put on, actually he's taken off a little bit of weight. He played kind of that hybrid defensive end position coming out of college, now playing more of that 3-4 outside linebacker here. He has transitioned well. He looks explosive, but he's kept the power. He has been impactful as a run defender. So Travis Gibson has filled in very valiantly and played at a starting caliber level with Khalil Mack out. We got Jalen Johnson continuing to just be a stable force as an outside corner for them, second-year player out of Utah, second-round pick. And then DeAndre Carson, a player we've talked about a lot throughout this series, a veteran safety here that's finally getting starting opportunities. And again, just filling in very nicely, making a case to be a starter in the future despite having kind of a career as a backup for a while here in Chicago. Then the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow gonna go up. His performance against the Pittsburgh Steelers was nearly flawless. He did have another interception, and that's been a part of Joe Burrow's game. I've said it's kind of held him back a little bit, but other than the one pick that was just kind of a aggressive, poor read by Joe Burrow, he was literally flawless. One of the better quarterback performances on the season as a whole, showing some improved arm talent, incredible throws with anticipation, hitting deep outs, and just accuracy. Unbelievable in this one against the Steelers. So Joe Burrow on the rise. He's getting better pass protection and better run blocking up front. Quinton Spain has really had a nice reemergence here. It's been a while since he's played like a really high quality guard, but he's back to doing it back here in Cincinnati. And then Jonah Williams is going to go up +2. He's just having a very steady season. It's a guy that had a lot of potential as the number one tackle in his own draft class, tore his, a shoulder, some kind of season-ending injury. And, I think it just took him a little bit of time to really hit that development track. And I think we're seeing that here in Cincinnati. He's a very good left tackle. T. Higgins was also incredible in that Steelers game, just showing the verticality, the ability to attack the football down the field, separating over the middle of the field as well. Something that he didn't always do at Clemson. So he's developing his game. His hands are so consistent. He's got kind of sneaky speed. He's just a very good number 2 receiver here for the Bengals. And then we have on the defense, Trey Hendrickson, possibly the best free agent pickup of the season. I mean, this guy has just been so consistently getting after the quarterback. He's got a little bit of craft to his game, but he's relentless, and he can come in low with some power as well. So Trey Hendrickson, another couple of good weeks here, going up to 82 to an 84 in weeks 11 and 12. And then Eli Apple had a really rough start, was kind of a laughing stock for the Bengals fans, as he was really that bad to start. But with Trey Waynes unable to fill in here on the outside due to health, Eli Apple has played valiantly. He's going to get some respect back here. He has been far from a liability. He's actually been a good corner for them really in the month of November. And then Mike Hilton as well gets a pick 6 against his former team, but he's been playing really well for the Bengals here, really filling out what has been an awesome secondary for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now the Buffalo Bills, so some improvements in the run game. Matt Breida has provided really a spark to this run game. Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, not exactly explosive players. Matt Breida, they've enjoyed having that speed in there the last couple of weeks. I think we see more and more of him as the Bills maybe try to run the ball in cold weather. Buffalo here in December football helps to have some interior offensive linemen heating up as well. Cody Ford was a highly drafted guard tackle hybrid out of Oklahoma, has never had an ounce of consistency to his career, and they've kind of been flirting with what offensive line is best for them. And it seems Cody Ford at right guard is a really good answer. They were going with Spencer Brown at right tackle for a while, with Darrell Williams at right guard. Darrell Williams wasn't great at right guard, and Spencer Brown, I think, needs some time as a pass protector. So I do think we see a lot more Cody Ford consistently moving forward, but they've really been shuffling this group around a lot this season, so we'll see. Ike Boettger has been good at left guard as well. He played well last year. Again, this is an offensive line that does not have a lot of consistency as far as who they play, but when Boettger has been in there, former Iowa lineman, we know those guys know how to block. He has been a very solid piece for them. Then for the defense, Harrison Phillips has been an incredible addition for these guys, especially as a run defender. He is just a tough-nosed, classic throwback defensive tackle. Not a great athlete, but he can get off blocks and defend the run. Ed Oliver, more of that modern defensive tackle next to him. So it's a nice kind of 1-2 punch there, because Oliver at 285 pounds with freaky athlete, he can kind of thrive a little bit more as a pass rusher with Harrison Phillips doing what he's doing in run defense. So Oliver has played some of his, I would just say he's had one of the best stretches of football in his career. He's had a very up and down career after being viewed by myself as a blue chip prospect coming out of Houston. He just hasn't had that high end development, but he clearly is doing a good job improving his technique. They're scheming up well on stunts as well, but his impact as a pass rusher has at least been consistent. And then these two young edge pieces playing very well as well. Carlos Basham showing really good run defense as a part of a rotation, a second-round pick out of Wake Forest. He's had to kind of fight his way back and into this rotation because they do have a lot of pieces. Gregory Rousseau has just kind of been there the whole time. He's shown mostly the ability in run defense. His pass rushing has been hit or miss throughout the season. Young player, we kind of knew it would be that way, but he has shown that length and ability to get off blocks and be that dominant run defender. So he's been good. These two linebackers are going to go up. They're playing some of their best football. Matt Milano, Tremaine Edmonds, they're kind of the franchise pieces in the middle of that defense. And then Teron Johnson's been a monster slot corner, and he's going to have to continue to be a stud for them because they lost Tre'Davious White here in Week 12. Then the Denver Broncos, some of these blockers up front doing a really good job. Eric Saubert, who has been rising a lot throughout studs and duds this season. He's just a role player. He's their third tight end, but man, he blocks his ass off. Andrew Beck, the kind of H-back, fullback hybrid piece, is doing the same. And then Cam Fleming has been flushed into action, a veteran here, but he has been playing his best football, man. He looks awesome, paving ways in the run game, just clearing dudes. So he's been really good and an answer for them at right tackle that's been just a turnstile for them as far as getting someone to stay there consistently. And I don't know if Cam Fleming is going to be the long-term answer there or not, but he's deserving of some praise. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Draymond Jones, this guy is just a pressure monster. His get off and power combined with now improved technique and understanding of how to leverage his abilities has really shown this season. He is just someone you have to account for. He just blows stuff up in the middle of your offensive line. And then these two young linebackers, Baron Browning, freak young athlete out of Ohio State, who was viewed as kind of a positionless player coming in. It's why he fell in the draft relative to how good his athleticism was. And you pair him with Vic Fangio, and he's coaching this guy up. And he's been flying around the field. He's been a good tackler, a good run defender, but he's even getting some depth and showing some instincts and coverage too. His upside is really fascinating, so it's been fun to see him come on lately. And then Kenny Young, they traded for him from the Rams. He too is getting good coaching. He's a great athlete, and he's settling in. So they've got some good athletes playing at linebacker right now due to some injuries, and they're stepping up. And then Justin Simmons, who started slow this season, has gotten right back to being in the conversation for, top 3, 4, 5 safeties. A lot of these guys are having bounce back years. Derwin, Jesse Bates broke out last year, actually, but Kevin Byard, Justin Simmons here. So anyway, Simmons is balling out, worthy of, getting some of those overall points back that we took away earlier on in the season. Okay, Cleveland Browns, Baker's going to come down. I know he's playing injured, so I'm not going to be too hard on him, but, it's not even just the inaccurate stuff. It's just processing. It's pocket presence. He just has not been a very good quarterback. I don't think it's all his fault. 78 is still a respectable grade here, but he just, simply put, needs to play better. On the offensive line, Blake Hance has stepped in with Jack Conklin going down now, and he's a good run blocker. He's a problem as a pass protector, but he's at least does something well. So he's going to go up one. And then wide receiver Jamarcus Bradley is going to be created here. He's come in and, made a couple catches, looked okay, so we'll keep an eye on him. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. He's come back from injury and resumed his dominance at the linebacker spot. He's just so instinctive, man, and paired with his athletic traits, it's just a good linebacker. Like, if you can see the ball and get there in the snap of a finger, and you've got the athletic traits and technique to be a good tackler, like, that's a really good baseline. And then you start to think about what happens if he starts to really understand passing concepts and continue to develop in that side of the game, where he has been a good cover player. But I'm just saying, the ceiling is really high for this guy, and he is a steal in the second round. And then in the secondary, these young guys are really looking good too. You got Greg Newsome, first-round pick. He really hasn't had a lot of bad games out there. And he's just very steady. He's a smart dude with a ton of quickness. He's got long speed. Big fan of Greg Newsome's game. And he's in the perfect scheme here for the Browns, where they run a lot of that off-zone quarters coverage. Also worth noting, Greedy Williams, who's not a full-time starter because they have so many good pieces here. He's their fourth corner, but when he's come into the game, he has been notably good. So he could be due for a boost if he keeps playing well in those limited 15 to 20 snaps he gets every week. And then Grant Delpit is settling in, a player that came off of an injury last season, but a second-round pick that I definitely thought belonged in the first round. This is an athletic safety out of LSU with range and length to get in the way of passing lanes. He's a great run defender. So Grant Delpit settling in, playing really good football. Now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Rob Gronkowski back from injury, still doing his thing. He's not separating a ton, at least one-on-one, but he can find holes in zones, and his hands are as good as anybody, as is his chemistry with Tom Brady. So he's going to go up one. Donovan Smith has been a bit of an unsung hero for the Buccaneers this year. He has been a dominant pass-protecting left tackle, and it's just nice that Tom Brady doesn't have to worry about his blind side, because Donovan Smith has genuinely been one of the better left tackles in football. And we didn't know if he was for sure going to be back with this Bucs team this year, but they are surely glad that he is, and he has really developed well really since Tom Brady got here. I am going to lower Mike Evans by one. He just hasn't been a huge impact for this team. He's still a red zone monster, but his inability to really produce over the middle of the field with Tom Brady and get on the same page there has been eye-opening, and he's really not creating a ton of separation, just as I've always kind of said he doesn't, but you're not seeing him make a ton of amazing catches either. So that lack of separation ability certainly hurting Mike Evans this season, and he's going to come down a little bit. Still a great player, but needed to come down just a notch. And then these two safeties, Mike Edwards and Antoine Winfield. Edwards is like their third safety, and he's actually suspended now because I think he also faked his ID, or not his ID, his COVID vaccine. But regardless, when he gets out there, he does a little bit of everything for that secondary. He's a super valuable asset for that Bucs secondary. And then Antoine Winfield, the pick against Michael Pittman, who's been mossing people all season. Well, Antoine Winfield climbs over him and mosses Michael Pittman, leaving Carson Wentz and those guys just shaking their heads like, how the hell did he come down with that? But it's not just that. He has been all over the field. He just such a freaking steal, man. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. He's one of my better draft calls of the last couple seasons. I had him as a top 20 player in last year's draft, and man, he should not have fallen to the Super Bowl champs here in the second round just because he's 5'9". He is genuinely one of the best safeties in the NFL already in year two. Then for the Cardinals, not a whole lot of movement here. It's just kind of hard to take a ton away from a team that is playing with Colt McCoy at quarterback, but clearly Zach Ertz is reinvigorated in this new system where he doesn't have to block quite as much, and on a team that's playing a lot better football. So he looks faster, he looks good, going up one. Rondale Moore really got involved week 12 against the Seahawks. Just steady hands, great run after catch ability, awesome find in the second round. He's kind of a missing piece for this West Coast air raid offense, if you will. Then we got Colt McCoy. I thought he played a really good game against Seattle. Just really steady, extended plays. Yeah, a couple missed throws, a couple missed reads here or there. But he's backup for a reason, but he looks like genuinely one of the better backups in the league. A couple notes on these veterans on the line, both offense and defense. Rodney Hudson just hasn't had a great season, honestly. I think his presence as far as getting the rest of the line in place has certainly showed up. But if you look at his actual pass rush win rate, what he's done himself on the field, he does look like a diminished version of himself. So I'm not lowering him this week, but he is on watch. He's got to play better football. And then Chandler Jones comes back to form here against Seattle. He had that huge week one against Tennessee with like 5 sacks or whatever. And then he was really quiet up until this last weekend. So I'm not going to raise him quite yet, but he was really dominant against Seattle. So he could be going back up if he continues to play like that down the stretch. Hey everyone, I just want to take a second to interrupt the video and remind you that if you enjoy the Madden aspect of everything that I do, to check out my second YouTube channel that is TFG Plays. That link is in the description below. Check it out where I am doing my realistic Bengals rebuild. Also, you can follow week-by-week condensed games of my online 32-man league as we are looking to restore the Niners to glory with Trey Lance. So if you enjoy the Madden side of things, all of my Madden content has moved to TFG Plays, and I encourage you to go follow over there, and I'll see you there. Back to the video. Got the LA Chargers. Rashawn Slater continues to kick ass. If people cared more about offensive line play, he should be in the Offensive Rookie of the Year conversation, but he won't be, but I'll put him in there. Josh Palmer is getting some looks out there, more like short to intermediate targets. Nothing really crazy. I'm not a huge Josh Palmer guy. I thought he was a little overdrafted here, but he's been stable. He's been fine. And then Donald Parham continues to get targets on a, small rate, but he just makes plays when they call his number. I'm excited to maybe see Donald Parham take over as the full-time starter next season. But Jared Cook is doing some nice stuff for them too. And then on the defense, some rotational pieces here. Joe Gaziano out of Northwestern, kind of a nice hybrid run defender up front. And Braden Fehoko has been nice. Remember him from Hard Knocks last year as kind of a hype guy, but good to see him get on the field and provide some strength and discipline up front. Neither of these guys have been amazing, but they've been nice rotational pieces for a run defense that desperately needs even more help. And then Uchenna Nwosu, hybrid edge piece, has played much better football. He really struggled early on, kind of learning the new system here, but I think he's better understanding his role. He's been kind of better impact in coverage. He's rushing the passer better, just everything. He's been a bigger presence for this unit. And then Nasir Adderley continues to impress, playing next to Derwin James, who's also going up there. Derwin speaks for himself, but Nasir Adderley was on my breakout players list this season, and he's doing a good job. He's not been amazing, but just hasn't been giving up the top of the defense too much, and he's been coming down, breaking up some passes, been a decent tackler, so going to go up again for the third week in a row. The Kansas City Chiefs, Creed Humphrey, man, steal of the draft at this point, if you're not talking about Trey Smith, who plays next to him, but Creed is the highest graded center in the NFL. He's one of the highest graded offensive players in the NFL this season. He has been just nutty, especially as a run blocker, but the last few weeks he's been anchoring down in pass protection as well. What a steal Creed Humphrey was. Chris Jones going up one. They have moved him back inside, and he's back to wrecking game plans up in the middle. Chris Jones is one of the 2 or 3 best interior pass rushers in the league, and he's back to it now that they're playing him as an interior rusher. Charvarius Ward has also been impressive. They've got, 3 good corners here. Charvarius is playing good football. They got L'Jarius Sneed and Rashad Fenton stabilizing this defense a little bit. Then for the Colts, we had Jonathan Taylor as our star of the week. Ashton Doolin was the player that caught that beautiful bomb from Carson Wentz off of play action this week. Deep ball touchdown. Good to see him show some explosiveness. And then Mark Glowinski playing with a vengeance, man. They tried to take his job away because Chris Reed, who was a cheap free agent pickup on the offensive line, was starting as Glowinski healed an injury. And Glowinski had to kind of take that job back. Clearly, that motivation has worked. I think he's also maybe in a contract year, but he has been, I would just say, maybe a top 10 guard in the NFL, certainly since he came back. And it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens with Glowinski long term, because he's a really talented player on a really good offensive line. Kylan Granson has been that third tight end that kind of rotates in there. They're doing a really good job scheming him up, kind of limiting what he has to do as a run blocker because he's just not a very big guy, but they do maximize his speed. They get him open, and he's shown really good hands and some nice run after catch too. So Kylan Granson looks like a nice find. He's basically been their Trey Burton replacement, like I said on draft day, and he's filled into that role perfectly. And then for the defense, Taylor Stallworth's been a nice free agent pickup for them, rotating in up front. And then Kwity Paye going up for the 5th straight week in a row. Initially, it was actually run defense for Kwity Paye. That's actually tapered off, but his pass rush has skyrocketed the last few weeks. Just showing bend, quickness, and just effectiveness with his technique, especially with his hands. Like, he's just a really good hand fighter of a pass rusher that he combines really well with that quickness. So he's just a handful to block, really, and he's been impressive. really since day one for the Colts. They do seem like they hit on Kwity Paye, at least as a guy that's going to be a high-end pass rusher for them. Then we've got these two linebackers going up. So Darius Leonard going to go up too. I have been really impressed with how much he's playing pretty well, despite clearly being hampered by that ankle injury. I think that's very clear that he's just not as fast as he's been in years past. I think that will get better at some point. But he hasn't been a liability for them. He's been a pretty solid linebacker. And then you sprinkle on top the ability to punch the ball out. This dude forces a fumble every other week. It's incredibly valuable. So Darius Leonard, it was time we gave him some love here. And then Zaire Franklin, he only gets like 10, 15 snaps a week. This guy's a captain for what he brings on special teams, but hell, he's been a good linebacker. He gets a pick week 11 here against Buffalo. And he's just been a really solid, like, all-around linebacker when he's on the field, which isn't a ton, but I kind of want to see some more of him. And then Isaiah Rodgers also, he seems like a steal. Second-year player, super fast guy with, like, legit 4.3 speed, but he's packaging it into earning more reps as a cover player, and he's showing better technique out there. He gets a pick, basically ran the route for Scotty Miller, picks off Tom Brady, and he's going to go up for the second week in a row. I also have a little note. Carson Wentz playing pretty good football, could be due for a rise pretty soon. Then the Dallas Cowboys. We actually have 3 weeks included here. So we got CeeDee Lamb going up. That one speaks for itself. We've all seen the Cowboys on primetime a couple times. He's just remarkable. Tony Pollard as well, that showing off the speed train ability against the Saints. He's so explosive, man. Tyler Biadasz has really settled in as a pass protector. He was viewed as the 1 weak link on this Cowboys offensive line, and he has been far from that this season. Sean McKeon catches a touchdown. I think that was the Thanksgiving game, but a thinner tight end with some moves as a receiver, so going to go up. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Tristan Hill the last couple weeks has played some of his best ball. He was a second-round pick for the Cowboys that really hasn't worked out. You've got Carlos Watkins playing next to him. He's been pretty solid in run defense. He also had an interception. That was against Taysom Hill last night, Thursday Night Football. I always fun to see a big man get a pick like that. Then Dorrance Armstrong continues to just be a really good rotational player, kind of a do-it-all edge guy for them. They've had a lot of moving pieces, so he's been a nice asset for them. And then Micah Parsons. I tweeted out a poll of would you rather have Micah Parsons or Chase Young at this point? Because Micah Parsons has been literally the most productive pass rusher per pass rush snap in the entire NFL. It's just super hard to block, and he doesn't even have any pass rush moves yet. It's wild that we're asking that, and he's not even a full-time, edge rusher. He's doing some other stuff, but just the ceiling for this guy and the imagination, the creativity that you can do with everything he's capable of, it is just unlike anything, man. He is incredible. And then Jaron Kearse has been awesome for the Cowboys. He's had an interesting career, man. He was pretty good for the Vikings as their third safety, was coached up by Zimmer as a 7th-round pick. He's a 6'4", athletic, big-bodied safety. He goes to Detroit and just kind of was not, standoutish, just as most people aren't for the Detroit Lions. And now he's here for Dallas, balling out. I think Jaron Kearse is kind of this hidden gem. He's a really good strong safety. He's one of the better tacklers in the NFL, certainly pound for pound. So he's been a really nice asset for a Cowboys defense that's been a pleasant surprise this year. Now the Miami Dolphins have made some noise lately. Tua's going to go up. No big-time throws in the last couple weeks and still 3 turnover-worthy plays. It's not like he's been great, but he's certainly been better. Looks much more of a starting caliber player. He's running the offense well. He's still dealing with a miserable offensive line, so going to give him some credit here. As with Jalen Waddle, we know he's fast, right? But elevating, making spectacular catches in traffic, the production, easily worth a boost this week. Liam Eichenberg has been a little bit better at left tackle, the rookie 2nd-round pick out of Notre Dame. He's had a rough season, but he's settled in slightly. Austin Reeder's going to come down again. Just a reminder on Reeder. We lowered him in the last Studs and Duds. He was at a time a really good center, or at least a starting caliber center for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Dolphins picked him up, and unfortunately he has not been nearly the same player as he was for Kansas City. He's really struggled for this Dolphins offensive line, just as most players do. Then on the defense, Jalen Phillips has just burst onto the scene. His game week 12 against the Panthers was nutty, man. 7 pressures, 3 sacks, and that's now 4 straight games with a sack for Jalen Phillips. I don't think it's a coincidence that his emergence as an impact pass rusher has coincided with the Dolphins defense playing much better, as with Jevon Holland. So you're looking at this list here, that's their first 4 draft picks all going up this week. And Jevon Holland, that's like back-to-back years now for me with really good safety calls. I had Antoine Winfield probably higher than anybody last year, and I was one of the few people that had Jevon Holland as the number 1 safety in this draft class. And my God, he is such a versatile piece. He is so similar to Antoine Winfield. That's why I liked Jevon Holland. He's got ball skills, he tackles, he comes up at the line of scrimmage, you can blitz him, you can man him up, he's got range as a free safety, he's smart. Just seriously, he can be one of the better safeties in the NFL. I loved that pick, and their first round has been really solid. And this was a draft that I liked for the Dolphins, so it's good to see those guys show up, because needless to say, their first round draft picks have, not exactly helped them out the last few years. So good to see. Then we got the Eagles. Pretty good list here. So Jason Kelce going up, getting back to elite run blocking. He's been pretty average as a pass protector, but man, this run game is fun to watch. Jordan Mailata is a big part of that. He's going to be such a bargain. Man, I kind of said this when they signed him, but I didn't think it would even get to this level. Just great foresight. He has been developing week by week, and his athleticism at 360 pounds, he's very Mekhi Becton-esque, honestly. So he's been a monster. We did Jalen Reagor as our dud of the week. And then Milton Williams has been getting back into the rotation, playing much better football. He struggled a lot early on. He's been getting some pressures as well. This is a freak athlete, mid-round pick for the Eagles. Excited to see his development track. Good to see him playing better football. And Javon Hargrave, he's just been a monster as a pass rusher. There's no other way around it. He's been one of the more just productive pressure getters in the league this season. And then Teron Jackson has been a part of the rotation as well, just doing a little bit of everything as that rotational edge piece. These linebackers having a good couple of weeks. TJ Edwards, player out of Wisconsin that I really like. He's got size. He's got some sideline-to-sideline speed. He's been playing probably his best ball, kind of winning out that starting job there. Alex Singleton, I think it's fair to say he kind of slumped early on. He was missing a ton of tackles early on. I don't know if he was dealing with injuries or just lost his confidence or what, but he has settled in and has been getting starting reps again, so he's been solid. And then Avonte Maddox, another player here that they kind of got before he truly broke out. I'm pretty sure they just gave him a contract extension a few weeks ago, but God, he's been not just one of the best slot corners in the NFL, he's been one of the better, more consistent cover players in the entire NFL this season, behind Darius Slay, who's also back to playing top 5 cornerback play out there. So these two corners have really been a huge boost to a defense that we weren't really sure what to expect. But, don't sleep on the Eagles secondary. That trio of corners with Steven Nelson, who hasn't been bad, is quietly one of the better cornerback trios in the league. Then the Atlanta Falcons, some love in the run game here. Chris Lindstrom, it's a former first-round pick. His career development has been very steady and really good to see. Jalen Mayfield, you're hoping can get on that Chris Lindstrom development track here, because this has been a roller coaster for him. He was genuinely one of the most hurtful players to his team in the first quarter of the season. And he's still really struggling in pass protection, but his run blocking has come through, and that's benefiting Cordarrelle Patterson, who's breaking tackles, catching passes, doing everything you would ask for from a 3-down running back. He's been the MVP of this team, and it's been one of the most surprising stories in the NFL over the last decade. I mean, geez, what are we seeing here with Cordarrelle Patterson, man? But it has been fun, and it's legit. He's good. He's legit good. It's just weird how it took this long. He's 30 years old, former first-round pick, has never been close to this good of a player. And then Anthony Rush has been in the mix as a defensive end, defensive tackle for them. Adetokunbo Ogundeje, he's catching my attention more and more every week. I kind of, for those that really follow this channel closely, I kind of famously said, I don't see him ever being anything here. And this week against the Jags was the first time where I was like, he's actually making some plays. He's doing some good stuff. Whereas before it was like, okay, he's getting a bunch of playing time. He hasn't been a liability. But now out there, like getting familiar with kind of the spot drop zones that they ask from him, playing good run defense, a little bit more as a pass rusher. So, he's got my attention. He's going up for the second week in a row, +2. And I could have just been straight up wrong on him. But when I watched him at Notre Dame, I was like, well, he doesn't have any pass rush skill set. He's not overly strong. He's not overly fast. He doesn't play the run all that well. What's he going to do in the NFL? And the Falcons are answering some of those questions. Then Fabian Moreau, who also had a really difficult start to his season, but they've stuck with him and it's paid off. He's been a much better corner here in November. So he's going to get the one point we took off of him after the first few weeks, and another one. He's actually been a pretty solid corner for this defense that's coming together a little bit. And then AJ Terrell for the fifth week in a row. He's been one of the top corners in the NFL. And someone asked me on a stream, is AJ Terrell knocking at the door of being a top 10 corner? And I think that's a great way to put it. He has been such a pleasant surprise, and it's remarkable that he's done it surrounded by such garbage here. Okay, Washington doing a good job of surprising the world again here. So a lot of under the radar players going up. DeAndre Carter's been just in the mix in that receiving group. He creates separation. He's got decent hands, a little bit of drop issues, but he's going to go up. Taylor Heineke's been really solid. I think that's 3 straight weeks without a turnover-worthy play. That's really uncharacteristic of him. But if he can keep that up, Heineke can be a low-end starter kind of bridge quarterback for this team. John Bates has been mauling dudes in the run game, a rookie out of Boise State. I didn't see that coming. He's been a really nice asset for them. And then on the defense, Jonathan Allen, he's just been so consistent. There haven't been a ton of individual weeks where he's like, oh my God, Jonathan Allen is stealing the show here. But when you look at his full body of work this season, he's been like a top 5 defensive tackle. And he's been really the one star on that front that's showed up and been able to stay healthy this year. James Smith-Williams is filling in and playing good football in the shoes of those injured star defensive ends. So he's doing a good job. Big-bodied guy. Daniel Wise, same thing there. He's a little bit even bigger, more of that 3-tech, 4-tech. But again, rotating those defensive ends in and out of the lineup. And then in the secondary, man, these guys are really coming together. This has been the most impressive part, I would say, of this team. Cameron Curl is just such a smart year 2 safety here. Do-it-all player, can play strong, free, man coverage, zone coverage, you name it. Really comfortable in all of these quarters, split safety defenses that they run. Landon Collins as well. He was actually a dud of the week not too long ago, but they've taken him out of a true safety spot. He's been mostly a linebacker for them, and he's been much better. He's getting off blocks, he's flying to the ball, he's understanding the system a lot better, and he's been a much more secure tackler. So Landon Collins +1. Danny Johnson, he's a player out of Southern University that I actually liked back in the day. He's been just kind of a practice squad caliber guy for a while now, but he's fought his way into this lineup, and it's kind of their 4th corner in the slot. And he's just an instinctive, really fast player. And it's been fun to see him get on the field because I do remember watching him and I was like, this guy stands out a lot watching Southern football. He just flew around and was just kind of in the way of passing lanes a lot. So good player, I think could be a little, another kind of hidden gem here on Washington. Kendall Fuller +1, playing great football. And then William Jackson as well. Those 2 corners have been difference makers for WFT. Okay, now we got the Niners. Brandon Ayuk back into the lineup, taking names at receiver. It's been an impact. Juwan Jennings as well, big-bodied slot receiver, been blocking his ass off. Good contested catch target. They might have to lean on him a little bit with Debo injured. Elijah Mitchell's going to go up. He's breaking tackles. He's producing. He's beating out other running backs here. He's been a gem for the Niners, who are used to finding gems in the late parts of the draft. Charlie Warner also, love his blocking, and I know Shanahan does as well. And then Kevin Givens on the defensive side of the ball, just a rotational defensive tackle, but he's been one of their better DTs over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And then Talanoa Hufanga, he looks like another fun find He's kind of next in line with a lot of these safeties. We just mentioned one of them, Cameron Curl, but there's a lot of safeties in the NFL right now because of all of the quarters coverages we're seeing. Safeties that aren't super fast, because if you think about it, in a quarters defense, you really just got to be heady, instinctive, and quick, not so much have traditional free safety range. And Talanoa Hufanga has filled in nicely for the Niners with that skill set. He also is just around the ball a lot. He sniffs out screens, just instinctive player. He's playing well for the Niners, getting into the lineup really as a starter lately. So keep an eye on Talanoa Hufanga. I just butchered that real bad, but I think I said it right the first time. New York Giants, Andrew Thomas back in the lineup, playing well at left tackle. Matt Skura, noteworthy that he's been just abysmal as a pass protector, but in run blocking, he's clearing some ways. Former Ravens and Dolphins lineman right there. Will Hernandez is really struggling, though, on the right side of the line here. He's going to go down to, I think he's cooked, man. Maybe he gets brought back somewhere else and comes back, but a former second-round pick that once upon a time was a good guard, he's been bad for the Giants now for the better part of, the last 2 seasons. We're also going to lower Kenny Golladay. His lack of production really speaks for itself. He just has not been the same guy here for the Giants. He's had a hard time staying on the field, but when he's been out there, just hasn't been anything special at all. Same thing with Evan Ingram, Saquon Barkley. Like, these are talented players, but at this point, like, you gotta produce at some point. Evan Ingram not doing it. Saquon Barkley not doing it. Saquon hasn't forced a missed tackle since week 4. I know he missed a lot of time, but even when he's been out there, he hasn't been noticeably good. He dances around too much. He doesn't hit holes hard. I feel like the Giants' bad run blocking just broke Saquon. And then on the defensive side of the ball, these young defensive backs all going up. Aaron Robinson standing out lately. Darnay Holmes. J.R. Reed is a fun pickup, former Georgia safety that I liked. And then Xavier McKinney has been fastly emerging as one of the premium safeties in the NFL. I actually just gave him a Pro Bowl vote in my Pro Bowl voting video, if you haven't checked that out yet. Then we got the Jacksonville Jaguars, just one player here, one measly little player, but it is a rookie, Tyson Campbell, the corner. Really nice pick in week 12. He's been pretty solid. I like Campbell coming out, so good to see that. And then for the New York Jets was actually a fun couple of weeks for the Jets relative to the rest of their season. Elijah Moore went off week 11. Michael Carter's been really good as well. Trayvon Wesco's been really blocking well up front. So they're finding some younger pieces on offense that they can kind of build around a little bit. And then for the defense, it's a lot of different pieces here. So Ronald Blair, a lot of you might remember him from the Niners with Robert Saleh's defense. He's back here with Saleh on the Jets, and he's been getting into the lineup lately, but he's kind of taken that starting job, and he's got some power as a rusher. He's a big-bodied edge with some good run defense. He's a nice counterpart to John Franklin Myers, who is just going off. He has explosiveness, pass rush ability, length. He's just a mismatch problem, the way they move him around and they stunt him. But he's improved with his discipline and gap control as a run defender as well. He is on a list of players that were paid at the right time, because he's only gotten better since they paid him, and he's looking like more and more of a bargain every week. If you're familiar with Eric Armstead's game in San Francisco with how Robert Saleh used him, I genuinely think John Franklin Myers is a better, more explosive version of Eric Armstead. And then Quincy Williams, I talked him up on the podcast, but he's been super fun to watch. And then I later learned that he's Quinnen Williams' brother, which makes this story even cooler. But he has been flying around. They blitz him. He's been okay in coverage. But he's just been able to find the ball a lot of times in the backfield. So he's just been a fun player to watch his development. A former third-round pick for the Jaguars. He's beat out some other guys here and definitely caught my attention. And then in the secondary, some good, some bad. Bryce Hall continues to just be really stable on the outside. I think they've found a really good number 2 corner there. And then I think they have their long-term slot in Javelin Guidry, who I've talked enough about this year, but just so fast, instinctive, and unbelievably good tackler. So I'm a big fan of Javelin Guidry. They've even got him playing outside right now. I don't know how long that lasts, because Michael Carter has actually really struggled. He's a rookie, late round pick out of Duke. He ain't cutting it. He's been just getting targeted all day. So I don't know if they keep Carter out there or not. Guidry can certainly play in the slot. But then these safeties playing really well. Ashton Davis, Elijah Riley, both year 2 players. Davis, a 3rd-round pick, and Elijah Riley, an undrafted guy out of Army. But they're moving these guys around, and this secondary is starting to identify some talent here for sure. Then the Detroit Lions, all on the defensive side of the ball, because we know this offense ain't doing a whole lot of developing. But these 3 edge guys are kind of a fun rotation. You got Austin Bryant, big body dude, playing stand-up outside edge, getting after the quarterback a little bit, but primarily impacting as a run defender. Julian Aquara does a little bit of everything. He's been explosive. And then Charles Harris has had a redemption season here. Former first-round pick. Probably was a little overdrafted, but he's putting together some pass rush moves. He's been very productive in that part of the game. And then as he's become a full-time starter, really is what it's been, he's actually defending the run pretty well. So Charles Harris looks like a really nice find for Dan Campbell in this Lions defense. Jalen Reeves-Maven has been pretty much established as the full-time starting linebacker here after they got rid of Jamie Collins, and he's just kind of doing everything for them. He's been good. Amani Arawarye, +2. He's got 5 picks on the season, some better than others, but he's clearly got instincts. He's kind of Trayvon Diggs-esque on a lesser scale, I would say. I don't think he's quite as good in coverage, and he doesn't have as many picks, but he's opportunistic, and he's got some athletic traits that can get you excited. So he's going to get some respect here. And then Jerry Jacobs is just fascinating. He's been really stable since he's been given that starting opportunity. He's an undrafted rookie out of Arkansas. He's, 5'11", 200 pounds, maybe 6 feet, 200. Not overly fast, but just a stable perimeter corner who has certainly caught the attention of the Lions here and myself as a potential starter. I don't know. He's played solid. All right, we got the Green Bay Packers. Allen Lazard coming down too. He is a literal useless wide receiver. I don't really see what they see in him. I know they like his blocking, but he doesn't run routes. He drops balls. He doesn't, for a 6'5" receiver, he can't come down with contested catches. They got to take him off the field because Equanimous has been better than him this season. Marquez Valdez-Scantling has hit the jugs machine. He's been solid since he came back from injury. And then in the run game, they've got their H-back Dominique Daphne. He's just been kind of clearing lanes for A.J. Dillon. He's caught a couple passes. He's going up 64 to a 65. A.J. Dillon, that one speaks for itself. He's been well covered, but man, he has been just a monster. That's Quadzilla right there. And then the defense, some of these unsung heroes. So Kingsley Keke has actually come on as a pass rush over the last couple of weeks. And then Preston Smith, where did this come from? He was actually pretty bad to start the season. We had been lowering him. But the last 3 weeks, he's got like 20 pressures, 3 or 4 sacks. Kind of started with that Cardinals game when his contain on Kyler Murray was really good. But yeah, he has heated up. I don't know if he was playing hurt or what was going on because he was just not an impact to start the season. But he's kind of back to that 2019 level over the last month of the season. So that's really good for the Packers. Tipa Galea, I don't even think that's how you say that last name, but he's filled in for Whitney Merciless, who got injured as a rotational edge guy. He's doing some good run defense. Athletic dude, can drop into coverage. Chris Barnes, probably his best game as a Packer, Week 12 against the Rams. Really good tackling game, coverage game. He's been a good find for them. And then Rasul Douglas, talk about good finds. My goodness, he has been a lifesaver for this cornerback group that's been just beat up. I mean, Stokes, King, Jair, all these guys have missed time. Rasul Douglas has filled in and just been rock solid in this quarters-heavy defense that, it protects his liabilities with his athleticism and inability in man-to-man coverage, but he's a smart dude, and he's just kind of a step ahead of the quarterbacks, or at least a step ahead of where other corners would be when reading the quarterback's eyes, I should say, dropping into those zone defenses. So he's been good. Then for the Panthers, just one measly player over the last 2 weeks. It's been a rough couple of weeks for the Panthers and not a whole lot of love here in Studs and Duds, but Phil Hoskins gets a sack Week 12 against the Dolphins. So young player, day 3 pick out of, was he Baylor or, no, I think he was Kentucky, right? But he had a nice sack. in pursuit of Tua. So he's going to go up 1. And then the New England Patriots, who have just been on a roll, one of the hottest teams in football. Their run game's been sweet. Jacob Johnson, Belichick called him the player that has improved the most in front of him. Interesting for him to say that, considering he coached Tom Brady. But Shaq Mason, he's back to like elite guard play. I do regret not voting for him in my Pro Bowl ballot in that video earlier this week. Ted Karras has also been a lifesaver. They've been dealing with injuries. This is a guy with positional versatility, but he's been stepping in at left guard and has been really good. So the run game's been good, and then these receivers have been good. Kendrick Bourne has been such a pleasant surprise. He's shown a little bit more juice and explosiveness than I thought he had. He had that beautiful touchdown here week 12 against the Titans. We're not doing week 11 here, by the way, because that was in last week's episode with the Thursday Night Football. But yeah, huge touchdown, broke a tackle, and then got the corner, sealed the corner and outran the defense for an impressive touchdown. Jacoby Myers has just been such a stable receiver for them too, over the middle of the field. And then Brandon Bolden at like 31 years old has been a huge impact for this Patriots offense, especially in the screen game. I never really wanted to raise him because he doesn't see the ball a ton. And it's like, yeah, this is just Brandon Bolden doing his Brandon Bolden stuff. We've seen a lot of him just kind of being bland for a long time, but he's actually been explosive and like learned how to play running back all of a sudden after being a special teamer here for so long. Then on the defense, Juwan Bentley, that massive physical presence in the middle of this defense, is going to go up 1. Christian Barmore, what a hit he's been, just getting after the quarterback, just like he did at Bama. I thought he should have been in the first round. I was stunned that the Patriots were able to get him when they did, but Bill Belichick ain't complaining. Kyle Van Noy, back here for New England, has been a monster in coverage. He is just so disruptive with those long arms, those spot drops, and hot drops too off of blitzes and stuff. Like, he just is such an instinctive cover player for an outside backer and a unique weapon for Bill Belichick. And then J.C. Jackson has genuinely been one of the top 3-ish corners in the NFL this season. The ball skills are spectacular, but he really stands out. Like, when you watch all 22, like he doesn't get beat too often. He just sticks in coverage. He's fast, great technique, you name it. So there's the Patriots. Then we got the Las Vegas Raiders. The offensive line going to get a little bit of love here. Some lower level guys. Andre James. I still think it's funny that Gruden stuck his neck out for this guy. He was terrible as long as Gruden was there. And then Gruden kind of gets the last laugh because once he leaves, Andre James has been playing really good football at center. He kind of figured it out there. They gave him this kind of confusing contract extension that his play hadn't really warranted. And there was some foresight there because he's come along. And then John Simpson, also a mid-round pick out of Clemson. He's filled in nicely at left guard as Richie Incognito hasn't been able to get out there. And then Brandon Parker's been there at right tackle, but he's going to go up for the second week in a row. He's been playing and hasn't been a total liability. And then in the secondary, Nate Hobbs, mid-round pick out of Illinois, just week after week after week, making an impact in the slot there. And then Trayvon Merrick. Don't let Javon Holland disguise the fact that Trayvon Merrick is also having a great season. This is a really good couple of safeties as rookies here. Trayvon Merrick has ignited that safety group that was so bad last year, come in as a rookie and just been a rangy, solid cover player on the back end there. So he's going to go up. Then we got the LA Rams. I am going to lower Matthew Stafford again. I mean, he's just not playing good football, and not even that. He's straight up playing bad football. He's missing easy throws. He's not hanging in the pocket and attacking the intermediate part of the field like he was doing in the first quarter of the season, and making really stupid mistakes too. So I know he's playing a little banged up, but it's been really ugly, and he's got to come down. And then Brian Allen has been really good, especially as a run blocker for the Rams, but pleasant surprise on that offensive line. Center looked like it was going to be a question for them, and he certainly has not been an issue. Then on the defense, Greg Gaines continues to just dominate as a run defender. He gets a sack on Aaron Rodgers this week. I'm a big Greg Gaines fan out of Washington. Just a tough, do-it-all defensive tackle. And then these two linebackers, Troy Reeder has really been a liability for the Rams. He can't figure out this defense this year. He's been getting lost in coverage. He's playing slow. He's missing tackles. He kind of has been bench-worthy for the Rams. And Ernest Jones, on the other hand, has been able to figure stuff out. As a rookie, he's been a good run defender. He's been in position a couple times in coverage, so he's going to go up 1, and we'll see how that linebacker position plays out for them moving forward. Okay, we got the Baltimore Ravens here. Tyler Huntley was solid against the Bears. Nothing crazy. He's clearly a backup, but was impressed on that game-winning drive, especially showing some toughness there. And then Lamar Jackson's going to come down for the second week in a row. It really shouldn't need to be explained. He's missing passes. He's throwing really bad interceptions. The pocket presence has regressed. I was really impressed by what we saw from him in the first 6 to 8 weeks. I thought he was an MVP favorite at a point, but this Ravens offense has actually been one of the worst in the league over the last few weeks, and Lamar is certainly not helping the matter. That's not all his fault, obviously, but sheesh, it's been really ugly. Mark Andrews is helping the matter. He's been a monster. He was basically their entire offense on Sunday Night Football against the Browns. Beautiful one-handed catch, but he's kind of creeping up into that tier with Kelsey and Kittle and Waller and those guys, if you don't already want to put him in that tier. And then Patrick McCarry has actually been really solid at right tackle. Was unclear how that situation was going to play out, especially with Ronnie Stanley going on IR there. But McCarry's been playing right tackle. Villanueva's been at left. You could do worse than those two guys. And then on the defense, these two edge guys, Odafe Owe continues to really develop week by week. He just does a little bit of it all. You know, he gets after the quarterback, he defends the run, he can drop into coverage, show off that athleticism, contain the quarterback, you name it. Tyus Bowser, really the same deal there. He's a different player. He's more of a hybrid type of player. But he's been rushing the passer really well lately. So effective, dropping into zones, very Kyle Van Noy-esque. He's been a good run defender. They gave him a contract extension after a solid year last year, but he continues to develop there, as does Anthony Averett, really athletic. 3rd-round pick out of Alabama in like year 3, year 4 now. He's had his ups and downs, but it's good to see him develop because come playoff time, they're going to want a guy that's not a problem for them. And I think Anthony Averett is trending towards more of being a solid corner than being a weakness at corner. Then we got the New Orleans Saints. Again, is going to include 3 weeks of games here. So not a lot on the offense. It's been tough to watch them on that side of the ball, frankly. But these blocking types, Nick Van Ette's been clearing ways in the run game for the Saints. And then Lil Jordan Humphrey making an impact, catches a touchdown. He does a little bit as a receiver. He's just not a very athletic guy. At least not as far as long speed goes, but he's blocking his ass off. He's kind of that hybrid, big-bodied slot receiver. Call it a Marcus Colston type if you want, but that's what he's been doing for them. And then for the defense, just so much depth and rotation across the board from the front 4 into the secondary, as you see Christian Ringo, a veteran who's been a monster run defender for them over the last couple of weeks. Carl Granderson, again, rotates. Jalen Holmes, both these guys big-bodied, powerful defensive ends, cheap pickups. Jalen Holmes, a former draft pick for the Vikes. Carl Granderson, an undrafted pickup. These guys are really good defensive end 3s, defensive end 4s. Quan Alexander has been playing pretty good football, especially in coverage. We know he's capable of it. He misses a lot of tackles, but he's been a little better as a tackler the last couple of weeks as well. And then PJ Williams, an interesting player here. You know, he's a veteran. He's been around this team for a long time, as mostly as a corner, but now he's playing that kind of like dime back role. And he's just playing a very aggressive brand of football. He's given up some plays, but he's also made a lot of plays. He's got 3 picks. He's got some impactful plays coming downhill as a run defender or tackling, the ball short of the sticks. Like, he's just been kind of around the ball this year. And again, it's been kind of boom or bust for him, but he's having a really good season in sum for the Saints. Then we got the Seattle Seahawks. I am going to lower Russell Wilson. You know, I'm not so much worried about the accuracy, which has been lacking because he is dealing with that finger issue, but he's passing up easy reads. He's making stupid decisions. He just doesn't look like a very sharp quarterback right now, and that has very little to do with his thumb. So obviously he's playing injured. I'm not going to shred him too much, but it's concerning what we're seeing from Russell Wilson, to say the least. And then on the defense, some of these guys up front are playing pretty good football. Darrell Taylor's lost weight. He looks really quick. He's showing some bend around the edge, getting more involved as a pass rusher. Rasheem Green, he had a really fun scoop and score PAT, showing off the athleticism. But actually, when he's been out there as a defensive end, he's been pretty decent as a part of a rotation. Nothing special, but he's an okay player. And then Brian Moan, the big nose tackle here, has had a couple good weeks and continues to just become a solid part of that rotation up front. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, the offense, and not doing a ton of developing here, but BJ Finney has had to fill in at guard, and he's been solid. He really has only played good football when he's been on the Steelers. He's sucked everywhere else he's been, but good to have that depth. Deontay Johnson, his hands have been much improved this season, and when Deontay Johnson has good hands and can come down with tough, spectacular catches, he's a dominant wide receiver and a big impact for the Steelers. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Isaiah Loudermilk continues to defend the run as a rotational defensive end. Chris Wormley has really stepped in nicely. He's been getting after the quarterback. He is a big, athletic dude. I was surprised when the Ravens traded him to the Steelers, and he's developed way better here in Pittsburgh than he did for Baltimore. And then Alex Highsmith, talk about development, young dude out of Charlotte, like just quick, uses that quickness and run defense much better this season than he has in the past. He can drop into coverage. He's like a baby TJ Watt, honestly. So that's been fun to see him play. And then a couple guys falling, actually, for the Steelers defense. Devin Bush, he's just getting lost out there. Run defense, coverage, you name it. He's a non-factor like liability for this defense. They traded up to get him, and you got to be disappointed with the lack of development from Devin Bush right now. And you look back at his career, he's never really been a star, so he's got to come down 3, and he's got to start showing more there. And then James Pierre, just a little reversal here. We raised him 2 in week 10 and then follows that up with 2 major stinker weeks. Offenses were really going at Pierre, and he was giving up a lot of yardage. So we're going to take one of those points back, 72 down to a 71. Then we got the Houston Texans, Jonathan Grenard. So I mentioned that content's going to be a little bit different over the next 2 weeks. I really want to do a Jonathan Grenard film video and just kind of show how versatile he is as a pass rusher and highlight something for the Houston Texans, because this guy is a legitimate building block, and he just wins in a lot of different ways. He's improved as a run defender too. He's been a very pleasant surprise for the Texans. You got a couple veterans here, really 3 of them. Derek Rivers, DeMarcus Walker, Jacob Martin. These guys all move around. They've had a kind of a fun rotation up front. They've all had pretty solid impacts these last few weeks. And then Tavier Thomas, we've talked a lot about him as well next to Jonathan Grenard. These are the 2 like building blocks that I think they've really found here in Houston. Thomas in the slot, 200 pounds. He's like 5'11", maybe 5'10", but he's fast, gets his hands in passing lanes, defends the run really well. He's a legit slot guy. So Grenard and Thomas, this is really what you can hope for in a season like this for Houston, is to find some pieces to build around. These guys 24, 25 years old. I think they can do that with those 2 pieces specifically. All right, couple more teams here. Tennessee, another offense that's been pretty hard to watch here. So Ryan Tannehill, I am in a lower. You have that game you have against the Houston Texans. I don't care how many receivers are out for you. 7 turnover-worthy plays, single-handedly cost his team that game, and he has not been good the last 3 weeks. So he's going to come down. He's got to play better, simply put. Then we got Aaron Brewer. This guy's like 285 pounds at offensive lineman, but he's sort of effective, especially as a run blocker. They've had to lean on him with all of these injuries. So he's been okay. Dontrell Hilliard was fun to watch against the Patriots. Broke off a stunning touchdown run, showing some speed, ability to run through arm tackles. Probably not a whole lot there. Veteran running back, but a nice pickup nonetheless. Nick Westbrook-Akine has been a just reliable possession receiver. He's been really good as a run blocker. He's played valiantly. He's just limited with his lack of athleticism, but worth noting. Des Fitzpatrick was a 4th-round pick. I did think was overdrafted, Didn't even make the initial 53-man roster here, but due to these injuries, they've had to call him up, and he's made a couple catches. He's been okay. Senior Bowl superstar, so gonna go up 2. And then on the defense, up front, we got Laurel Murchison, rotational defensive end, as with Tyre Tart, who's been playing a ton as a nose tackle, defensive tackle up there. Both those guys playing well, physical run defense up front. And then Elijah Molden has continued to grow as that instinctive slot corner out of Washington. And then just a note on Monty Rice, one of my favorite sleeper linebackers, sleeper players in general in this draft class. He's been starting for the Titans, and he's been hit or miss, but he's been getting in some passing lanes and coverage, made some nice tackles, so could be due for a boost if he keeps playing pretty well. And then the Minnesota Vikings to wrap this thing up, Justin Jefferson, just week after week after week, asserting his dominance. So good, especially in that Packers game. So he's going to go up. I think he's entered the top 5 receiver conversation in the NFL, if not higher. And then a couple of these offensive linemen, Mason Cole was really good against the 49ers. And Christian Darrisaw has been healthy and understanding his role a little bit better here. He's been really good as a run blocker, settling in as a pass protector. That was one of my favorite moves in this entire draft, was the Vikings moving down and drafting Christian Darrisaw, still getting him in the 20s. Thought he was a lock top 15 prospect in this class, and it's been good to see him play more up to that because he's had an up and down rookie season, but I think he's kind of settling in and could continue to climb here down the stretch because he's a super talented player with a good head on his shoulders. And that is going to do it for Studs and Duds weeks 11 and 12. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Again, not going to have Studs and Duds now until the end of the regular season. So I really hope you enjoyed. Please do hit that like button if you did. If we could get 1,000 likes on this video, it would mean a lot to me, and it would mean a lot to the growth of this channel. So hit that like button. Let me know in the comments down below if you think I missed any players. And until next time, peace out.